Picture this. You spent 12 years in school. 12 years, 40 weeks a year, 6 hours a day. You learned the quadratic formula, the one you have used exactly 0 times since graduation. You memorized the periodic table. You wrote essays about books you probably did not read. And then your first paycheck arrived. And you looked at it and thought, where did a third of my money go? What is this deduction? Why is my take-home so much less than my salary? 15,000 hours in school, and nobody, not once, explained what would happen to your money the moment you started earning it. I used to think that was a mistake, an oversight, something that fell through the cracks. It was not a mistake. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will see the entire system differently, and you will never be able to unsee it. Let us do a quick audit of what school actually taught you. Mathematics, years of it. Algebra, calculus, trigonometry. But did anyone use those skills to show you how compound interest works on your savings? Or how it destroys you on a credit card? No. Science, years of it. The periodic table, the life cycle of a fern. But did anyone explain how banks and corporations actually function? The financial ecosystem you are living inside right now? No. History, dates, wars, empires. But did anyone explain that the colonization of countries like India and Pakistan was at its core a financial operation? That the British East India Company had its own army, its own currency, and extracted more wealth from this region than any military campaign in history? No. They taught you the dates of battles. And economics, some schools teach it. Supply and demand, GDP, macroeconomic policy, all valid. But it is economics from the perspective of governments and institutions. It does not tell you what to do with the money sitting in your bank account right now. It does not explain what an index fund is, why it beats most professional fund managers, or how to open an investment account. The economics curriculum explained the ocean. It never taught you how to swim. 12 years, not a single lesson on taxes, credit scores, investing, or how to negotiate your salary. That is the audit. Now here is the history lesson they definitely did not teach you. Financial education was not always absent from schools. In the early 1900s, when most people were farmers or small business owners, money management was embedded in daily life, and schools reflected that. Home economics, budgeting, basic financial planning. It was considered essential, because it was. Then, after World War II, everything changed. Mass production meant goods could be made faster and cheaper than ever. Companies needed to sell those goods in massive volumes, and for that, they needed consumers, not careful savers, people who would buy things they could not quite afford, driven by aspiration rather than calculation. And to make that possible, they needed this, the credit card. 1950, Diners Club. 1958, Bank Americard. Then Visa. Then MasterCard. For the first time, ordinary people could spend money they had not yet earned and pay, slowly, over time, with interest. The credit card was not invented for your convenience. It was a mechanism to bring future spending into the present. For you, it felt like freedom. For them, it was a mathematical certainty of profit. In the 1970s, there was actually a push to bring proper financial education into schools. Consumer advocates, some politicians, some economists, they argued that as credit became more available and financial products multiplied, ordinary people needed the tools to navigate it. It went nowhere. Not because the idea was bad, because the financial services industry, by then one of the most powerful lobbying forces in government, had no incentive to support it. And when the powerful have no incentive to support something, it tends not to happen. I want to be precise here because this matters. I am not saying there was a secret meeting. This is not a conspiracy. Think about how a bank makes money. Simple version. A bank pays savers 2% interest. It charges borrowers 12%. The 10% difference, that is the profit. Now, what does the bank need for that profit to exist? Borrowers. Specifically, people who borrow more than they need for longer than necessary at rates they do not fully understand. A financially educated borrower negotiates a lower rate, makes extra repayments, pays off the loan early, less profit for the bank. A financially uneducated borrower accepts the advertised rate without question, pays only the minimum, and takes 10 years to repay a 3-year loan. Much more profit. Apply that same logic to every financial institution. Credit card companies, consumer lenders, insurance firms selling products people do not need, investment firms charging high fees on funds that underperform simple index funds. Every one of them is more profitable when you understand less. In one recent year, the financial services industry spent over $500 million lobbying the U.S. government. Financial literacy advocacy organizations combined, a few million. That imbalance, repeated every year, across every country, across every curriculum review, is the school system you went through. Not a conspiracy, just incentives. And now you know whose incentives you have been living inside. Enough of the problem. Here is what they should have taught you. 4 lessons, the real curriculum. Lesson 1. The difference between an asset and a liability. Most people think they know what these words mean. They do not. An asset puts money into your pocket every month, whether you work or not. A liability takes money out of your pocket every month, whether you use it or not. A rental property, dividend-paying shares, a business, assets. Money flows to you. A car loan, a phone on finance, a house you live in with a mortgage, maintenance and taxes, liabilities. Money flows away from you. Now, here is the uncomfortable truth. Most of the things you have been told to work toward, the nice apartment, the new car, the upgraded lifestyle, fall almost entirely in the liability column. This does not mean you should never have these things. It means you need to understand what side of the ledger each purchase sits on before you make the decision. Most people never do this. They buy the liability first and then wonder why their bank account does not grow. Here is how wealthy people actually think. Before buying anything significant, they ask one question: does this put money in my pocket or take money out? If it takes money out, they make sure they have enough assets generating income to cover it comfortably. They build the income side first, then they spend from it. The goal is simple: accumulate assets, minimize unnecessary liabilities. The wealthy do not get rich by earning more, they get rich by accumulating things that pay them while they sleep. That is lesson 1. Never written on your school chalkboard once. Lesson 2. How compound interest works and why it cuts both ways. Picture a small snowball at the top of a hill. It rolls slowly at first, then it picks up more snow, then more. By the bottom of the hill, it is enormous, not because you pushed it harder, but because it had time. That is compound interest. Your money earns returns, then those returns earn returns, then returns on those returns, growth on growth. Here is the number you need to memorize, the rule of 72. Divide 72 by your annual return rate, and that is how many years your money takes to double. At 8% return, money doubles every 9 years. At 10%, every 7 years. 1,000 rupees invested at 10% without adding anything more, 7 years, 2,000. 14 years, 4,000. 21 years, 8,000. 35 years, 32,000. From 1,000 to 32,000 by doing absolutely nothing after the first investment, just letting time work. Now, let me show you why starting early is not just helpful, It is the single most important financial decision you will ever make. Two people, same age, 22 years old. Person A starts investing 5,000 rupees per month at age 22 and stops completely at age 32. Just 10 years of investing, then nothing. Person B waits and starts investing 5,000 rupees per month at age 32 and continues all the way until retirement at 60. Person A invested for only 10 years. Person B invested for almost 30 years, 3 times longer. Who ends up with more money at retirement? Person A, by a significant margin. Because the 10 years of head start, those early years when the snowball was small but rolling, compound into something that 30 years of late starting cannot catch. The first 10 years of compound interest are worth more than the next 30 combined. This is the lesson that changes everything, and it was never taught to you at the age when it would have made the biggest difference. Now, flip it around. Credit card debt in Pakistan runs at 30 to 36% annually. At 36%, your debt doubles every 2 years. Not 12 years, not 9, 2. The same force that builds wealth when you invest destroys it when you borrow recklessly. Compound interest does not care which side you are on. It just does the math. Lesson 3. The difference between saving and investing, and why saving alone makes you poorer. Saving is necessary. An emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses before you invest anything, non-negotiable. But here is what school never said. Money sitting in a bank account loses value every year. If your savings account earns 2% and inflation runs at 5%, you are losing 3% of your real purchasing power annually, quietly, without anyone telling you. Think about this practically. A trolley of groceries that cost 5,000 rupees 5 years ago costs significantly more today. The groceries did not become more valuable. Your money became weaker. That is inflation at work. Every single year, on every rupee sitting still. Investing is how you outrun inflation. Index funds, real estate, businesses, assets that grow faster than inflation eats them. The global stock market has returned an average of 10% per year over the last 90 years. Through crashes, recessions, wars, pandemics, nobody who invested consistently in a broad market index fund for 20 years has ever lost money over that full period. Saving protects your money. Investing grows it. You need both, in that order. Lesson 4. How to negotiate, and why it is the highest return skill in personal finance. This might feel out of place in a money video. It is not. Research shows that the average person who negotiates their starting salary earns, over a 40-year career, approximately $1 million more than the person who accepted the first offer without asking. $1 million from one conversation that nobody taught you to have. Most people do not negotiate because they were never taught that it is expected. Employers budget for it. Almost every job offer is a starting point, not a final number. The employer knows the range. They offer the bottom of it. They are waiting to see if you ask. Most people never ask, because school trained them to accept the grade they were given without questioning it. And this principle extends far beyond salary. The interest rate on your loan, your rent when you renew the lease, your phone bill, your credit card annual fee, service contracts, insurance premiums. Almost everything in life has more flexibility than most people ever discover, simply because most people never ask. The person who understands this and acts on it consistently keeps significantly more of their income than the person who does not. More money kept is more money available to invest. More money invested earlier compounds harder. It all connects. Now, here is your 30-day action plan. Not vague advice, specific moves. Week 1. Audit your spending. Go through 3 months of bank statements. Categorize every expense: food, transport, rent, subscriptions, entertainment, clothing. Most people discover subscriptions they forgot they had. Others find that eating out is costing 3 times what they thought. You cannot fix what you cannot see. Week 2. Calculate your net worth. Everything you own minus everything you owe. savings, investments, any property on one side, loans, credit card balances, any debt on the other. Write the number down. If it is negative, that is fine, that is common, that is just your starting point. The goal is not to have a big number today. The goal is to have a bigger number 6 months from now than you have today. Track it, watch it move. Week 3. Set up one automated investment, however small. In Pakistan, Mizan Asset Management, NBP funds, UBL funds, all SECP regulated, most have apps. You can start with as little as 1,000 rupees per month. In India, Grow or Zerota coin. Start an SIP in a Nifty 50 index fund. The amount right now matters less than the habit. Set it to transfer automatically the day your salary arrives, before you can spend it. Week 4. Read one book. One only. The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Less than a restaurant meal in cost, 6 hours on audio. It does not tell you which stocks to buy. It explains why intelligent people make terrible financial decisions and gives you the mental framework to avoid the most common and most expensive ones. More practical wisdom per page than most university finance courses. 4 weeks, 4 moves. Audit, net worth, automate, read. By day 30, you will understand your money better than most adults around you, not because they are less intelligent, because they never started. Here is what I want you to leave with. You were not failed because you were not smart enough. You were not failed because you did not work hard enough. You were not failed because of anything you did or did not do. You were handed a curriculum built by people whose interests were not yours. You were taught to be a reliable employee and a predictable consumer. You were not taught to understand the system you were living inside. But here's the thing. The information was never locked away. It was never illegal. It was never impossible to find. It was just invisible, unless you went looking. And now you are looking. That is the only difference between where you are today and where you will be in 5 years. The first training session does not make you powerful. It makes you aware. Aware of what is possible. Aware of where you are starting. Aware of what the path ahead actually looks like. That is what today was. Not the complete training, the beginning of it. Share this with one person who needed to hear it. Not for me, because 15,000 hours of their life deserved better than what they got. Subscribe for the next arc. I will see you there.